Hey everyone. In today's episode, I'm going to do a review of Melbourne for the past year. Look, the reason for doing this is because a lot of people don't, I think, actually know what's going on here. So in today's episode, I'm going to get into exactly that. So first things first, I'm going to do the 2025 summarise and what actually happened. Secondly, each region, I'm going to analyse each region. Then thirdly, I'm going to give you the best regions for 2026 to buy in. So look, what really happened in 2025 in Melbourne? Look, there were two major market shifts. There was, first of all, the bottom that kind of happened at the start of the year. Look, I'd kind of say I've written January to February here, then second upturn in July and August. Really what happened here, I'd say, was the market really bottomed in kind of November to probably February, somewhere between that. And then it kind of lifted a little bit off its bottom. Then in July, August, especially with the turn of the financial year, the interest rate cuts, and also not only that too, the announcement of the 5% deposit scheme, that then did shift the market again up. In 2025, investors continued to bail out of the market and owner-occupiers have dominated the house sales. So what you'll find here is roughly only 42% of all rental property sales in Melbourne. This is a recent actual statistic out of CoreLogic RP data. Only 42% of all rental homes sold stayed as rental homes. So it's mostly owner-occupiers dominating that kind of the market. Extremely cheap ratio compared to other cities, which led many interstate buyers back to the market. Now, what happens here is this is very common in Australia, and not in Australia, in the world, amongst a lot of cities and developed countries. When one city becomes should I say cheap to another comparable city, people will generally start to buy back into that city. So Melbourne is cheap to absolutely everywhere. So that's kind of what you got going on here. That's why people are coming back into Melbourne. It's because it's cheap to absolutely everywhere. That's what's happening. Look, vacancy rates have continued to fall throughout the year. Again, this is just a result of investors bailing from the market. And I can tell you right now, the more and more ridiculous the rental laws get in Melbourne, and they are pretty crazy now. I'd say they're on par with probably somewhere like Germany or maybe even France in, Central Europe in overseas, the worse it's going to get for renters, because there's always ways landlords can take their homes back. Don't get me wrong. There's always ways they can do that. And if simply the amount of rental homes available is lower and lower and lower, and you have a lot of people coming into a market, rents have to go up. It's as simple as that. There is no two ways about it. Rents will go up. Unquestionably, they will have to go up. I actually expect Melbourne, in terms of rentals, to go up more than anywhere else as well in the next 10 years, funny enough. I fully expect that to happen, because these laws are actually just making it worse for renters. But anyway, they need to probably stem the flow of people into the city, and then also not only that too, but make it a little bit more favourable for developers to get into markets and investors, because that's what will solve the crisis. But anyway, they do what they do. There's a large fight towards turnkey stock and major opportunity in flipper or renovator style homes. Look, the amount of laziness that is out there in the Australian market, it's not only Melbourne, this is endemic to almost everywhere, is insane. People don't even want to do simple painting, simple flooring. It might be even simply just adding, a room or adding a wall in or something like that. It's such simple work, but the average person just does not want to do it. And you could learn this off YouTube, literally. I'm not trying to be cynical or anything like that, but you could learn that off YouTube. No word of a lie. You could 100% learn that off YouTube, but people don't do it. And you're picking up stuff incredibly cheap for homes like this. It's insane what you can get for some homes like this. But anyway, that's what's going on in the market, and it's largely turned in demand in terms of the market, and it's been varied. So not every area has turned as much as others. And again, that is likely due to the uncertainty now around, should I say, interest rates and the inflation rate. No surprises there, but there's certain parts of the market that have turned more than others. So let's get into that now. I'll start with probably my favourite region, and that is the inner west of Melbourne. This has had very strong results in the past, should I say, year. So you've had most suburbs do 5 to 10% growth in a single year. I mean, homes near village centres and ones in quiet family locations have done very well here. And not only that too, but there's been very strong rental growth, so between 5 and 10% in most of these suburbs. Look, and vacancy rates are only generally below 1.4% in most of these suburbs. Now, there should be no surprises about this. I was telling people this is very well located, it's very cheap, rents are reasonable in this area as well. And I mean, there's quite good industry and quite a lot of professionals that live in these suburbs now. So, look, it should be no surprise that we're seeing things like this happen. This is just going to continue to happen. I hate to say it, but it's just the truth. This will just continue to happen because there's just so little, stock on market, and it's very well located as well. So no surprise about here. Renovator style homes had exceptional opportunity. Turnkey sold very strongly. I mean, I saw a home in Yarraville, for example, that two comparative homes, one turnkey, one not turnkey. The turnkey home sold for 1.55 million. The non-turnkey sold for 1,020,000. It needed 30 grand worth of work. So, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's such a big gap between these homes and such good opportunity in these. But that's kind of what's going on at the moment in these areas. It's just insanity what people ignore. And people almost just love throwing money in the bin. That's what I'll say these days. They absolutely love throwing money in the bin. But anyway, there's been some very strong results in outer parts, particularly towards Sunshine. I had people buying in Sunshine West, especially for like 560 to 600,000 about 12 to 18 months ago. I now am seeing properties go for literally 900,000 and above in the same sorts of areas. So, and look, it's not the same homes. I mean, the top end at that time was probably going for 650,000 to 700, but it's just crazy what's going on at the moment, especially around there. There's been some good results as well towards the back end of the year in Newport, Spotswood, and Footscray. These are all suburbs, again, that are very well located, very good fundamentals there. I mean, so close to the city and good incomes as well. So this is going to continue to happen. I'm expecting these suburbs to continue to grow. They're just too underpriced for what they are. But that's pretty much my update and summary of the Inner West over the past 12 months. That's kind of what's going on in this market. Let's get into the inner city. So the market has moved between 3 and 7%. There's been good results in well-located homes close to transport lines, and also rents have continued to rise between 5 and 10% in many cases. Look, again, here, no surprises. They're undersupplied again. I'd say your markets that have performed quite well here are particularly the markets that are under the $1.5 million mark. They've done quite well. The more expensive ones haven't done too badly, but under 1.5 has done very well. Land scarcity here has been continued, so larger lots are selling for even more money. It's because developers are starting to land bank and know what's going to happen in this market in the future. There's been great opportunity in renovator and flipper style homes. Again, it's not knockdown rebuild here. They're mostly renovator style homes here because a lot of them are either heritage protected or are in areas where you can't build much more than what's already on there. But to flip here, you have some very good opportunity. So that's kind of what's going on here. There's been strong demand from both overseas and interstate buyers. So interstate starting to come back here, particularly from Sydney. Overseas, a lot of expats. That's what I'm talking about. A lot of expats are buying back into Melbourne. Plenty who have lived in Singapore, China, Malaysia, the UK have started to buy back in here. No surprises about that because it's just such an underpriced market. So that's kind of what's going on here as well. There's been strong results in Fitzroy North, Princess Hill, and Flemington. Look, Fitzroy North is a more expensive suburb, but it's just because of the location. It's very, very well located. One of the best walk schools in all of Melbourne. Princess Hill, so Fitzroy North is around the mid 1 millions to 2. Princess Hill is towards the late 1 millions, but it's because it's so undersupplied and it's very much a family suburb. Flemington, I had people buying that for a flat million earlier in the year, and now most are going for 1.3 plus. So, I mean, this is what you're getting in markets like this. This will continue to happen, mind. This is not endemic to what's just recently happened. Pardon me, this will continue to happen. So that's what's happened over 2025 in the inner city. Let's get into the inner east. So it's been relatively an upturning market. It's done between 2 to 6%. The rental market's reasonably strong, not as strong as other areas, but vacancy rates are generally 1.5 to 2%. Look, largely that's because of some parts of the inner east, particularly around Box Hill, having a lot of apartments going up and a lot of the Asian community living there and not buying these other homes. Many larger old school homes have sold over the year, but larger trophy homes have been held. So like the one you can see here, I mean, the larger homes where it's been a deceased estate or just an older person moving out, a lot of the time they've just sold that. The trophy ones are held onto until the market really turns. That's when they'll start to sell them. There's been continued large demand towards close to prestigious schools. It's very common in the inner east. Many larger apartment blocks are also being built close to town centres, especially Box Hill, and some of these areas, particularly in the inner east, affluent areas, have some of the best long-term affluent opportunities in Australia. If you have around $1.5 to $2 million, there's not many better places to buy long-term than the inner east of Melbourne. It's been quiet for a long time, about 7 to 8 years now. And I mean, this is some incredible opportunities. Some suburbs here have done around 10% capital growth, to give you an idea. So there's been some very strong results in Box Hill, Hawthorn East, and Kew. I had people buying in Box Hill for, 1.35 to 1.4 million a year or so ago. And they're going for about 1.6 to 1.7. Hawthorn East, I was mentioning to people plenty of times for, under even 2 million, and that's like now 2.3. Kew, mixed bag, but especially a larger original lot in Kew, has done very well over the year. And it's because it's so well located, and you got the law precinct near there. So you got quite an affluent, should I say, resident population that live around Kew. And it's not only live, they send all their kids to the schools around Kew as well. So that's what you got going on in the inner east, and that's largely what's happened in the last 12 months in the inner east of Melbourne. Let's get into the inner south and southeast. There's been strong results between 2 and 6% in many suburbs. Rents have increased due to lower vacancy rates around 1.5%. Market has turned towards the back end of the year, and spillover suburbs have done quite well. So this area is fundamentally a very good area of Melbourne, probably my favourite in all of Melbourne if you have a lot more money. These are very, very good suburbs. A lot of them as well are very cheap. If you compare them to Sydney, they're like a third of the price of the comparative Sydney suburbs, sometimes even more. To give you an idea, Albert Park is like 2.4 to 2.6 million. Bellevue Hill's like 11.5 to 12. So it's like, almost a fifth of the price of Bellevue Hill. So that's kind of what's going on here. What we've got as well is many wealthy Sydney-siders have come here into the market to both live and invest, and many suburbs are continually to be tight held as they have been historically. So again, it's crazy to think that people would invest at $2.5 million or $2 million, but people from the very affluent places of Sydney do, because they know this is a very good area long term and you're never going to go wrong buying here. So that's what they are tending to do in this area. Suburbs continually being tight held. So, I'll give you a good example. Somewhere like Balaclava or St Kilda East, very much so an Orthodox Jewish community, very, very tightly held because the synagogues are near there, and also Yeshiva College is very close to there. So they do that because obviously their holy day, they generally don't use any forms of technology. So that's one reason they do that. Other reasons as well is a community, and it's close to where places of worship and their schools. So it's very common. You have times in places like St Kilda East and Balaclava where you have 100% clearance rates, and not only 100% clearance rates, but you also have times where there is literally 2 or 3 houses on the market when you've got other comparative suburbs in other parts of Melbourne that have maybe 15. So that's what you get in these areas. And unsurprisingly, strong results have been in Caulfield North, St Kilda East, and Elwood. I've been talking about St Kilda East for a long time. I've spoken about Caulfield as well. And Elwood I've been speaking about for a long time as well. It's one of the best buys in all of Melbourne. If you're still picking it up below 2 million, you're doing very well. That market is starting to shift quite substantially because people are catching on to it. Maybe they're watching my videos, maybe they're getting info for free, whatever. I don't really care. But that's what's going on in the inner south and southeast. And that's really what's happened over the past, should I say, 12 months here in 2025. Let's get into the Bayside. So you've had reasonable growth here dispersed between 3 and 10%. The stronger results generally have been in the spillover underpriced suburbs, but there's been large demand for family homes on original blocks above 500 meters squared, and this is continuing to shift in the warmer months. So I have mentioned plenty of suburbs that I say are spillover suburbs and underpriced spillover suburbs especially. It should be no surprise that these guys have gone up, and it should be no surprise that the family homes on the original lots have gone up, because this is exactly what I was saying was going to happen in these kinds of suburbs. Look, the markets had continued to warm up, as I said, in the warmer months of the year. This is very common in the Bayside. It usually happens. What else is going on as well is larger mortgage market is showing signs of stress, and cheaper end of the market continue to attract strong demand. So the mortgage end of the market in this area is generally your 1.5 plus to about 2.5 million. That end of the market is a little bit slower than I'd say your markets around or below the 1.5 million. That end of the market is strong, and it should be unsurprising that those markets are strong. Even the markets that I'd say are above 1.5 but near very expensive suburbs, they are still also quite strong, because they're just spillover suburbs that people are seeing the value in. That's really what's going on. So because of all of this and what's happening, you've had strong results in Moorabbin, Cheltenham, and Brighton East. Now, what's common about all these three suburbs? They're all underpriced spillover suburbs. Every single one of them. I mean, Moorabbin and Cheltenham literally neighbour. So Moorabbin neighbours literally like Bentley. It's very close to Bentley. It's quite close to Sandringham. Cheltenham neighbours literally like Beaumaris, Hyatt, other more expensive suburbs, Mentone, those sorts of suburbs. Brighton East neighbours Brighton. Again, it's very, very, very consistent with what I've been saying throughout the year. Try to buy in a cheaper spillover suburb, especially if it's for investment or even owner occupying. You're still getting the same access, really, just a 2-minute extra commute, but you're getting it for a much cheaper purchase price. And it's unsurprising that some of these suburbs have done up to 10% growth, because I've been talking about this for more than a year. I've been talking for about 2 years about these sorts of suburbs. So look, that's kind of what's going on in the Bayside in the last 12 months. And this is set to continue. No doubt this will continue. A lot of these suburbs are still underpriced. So that's what's going on in 2025 in the Bayside. Let's get into the final area I want to get into, and that is the inner north of Melbourne. So it's pretty much anywhere from Brunswick right up to kind of like, let's say, your Heidelberg Heights, Heidelberg West sort of way, Pascoe Vale South, Coburg, all those sorts of areas. Slower market growth here, between 1% and 5% year on year. Rents, though, have continued to increase due to lower vacancy rates below 1.5%. Look, the market here has been a little bit slow, because there are some suburbs here that are still, I'd argue, a little bit expensive, particularly like Essendon, a little bit expensive for where it is. But the lower end is starting to pick up. That's what I'd say. Rents are going up substantially here. It's just low vacancy rates here. Many developers are holding stock in this location. There's been strong demand for original homes on larger lots in outer locations and inner city cottages near town centres. So those are the two homes you kind of want to buy. You want to either buy an inner city cottage, detached cottage, or an original home on a larger lot in an outer part of the inner north. In my opinion, though, some of the best long-term opportunities are for those that are in the low 1 millions or even sub 1 million. If you can get a good lot sub 1 million on an original lot, or a, should I say, well-located place in possibly, let's say, an inner city market, you'll do very well. And unsurprisingly, because of what I'm saying here, you've had strong results in Belfield, Alphington, and Brunswick West. So Belfield, the original lot homes, particularly your old commission homes, have done very well over the last 12 months. Alphington, it is a very much so green city kind of area. Green, it's like a suburban area, but very close to the city. So very good family homes have done well there. Not necessarily on big lots, but in the good tree-lined streets have done very well. Brunswick West, your inner city cottages close to the main roads, particularly like anything that's near, should I say, Sydney Road, near the main part of Brunswick, anything near there or village centres has done very well. So look, that's kind of what's going on in the inner north over the last 12 months, and that will continue again. Very good area to buy. I like it. I think it is one of the best you could possibly buy, and that will continue again, as I've mentioned to a lot of people for quite a while now. So expect that to continue. That's the inner north over 2025. So the big question people probably ask is now, where are the best regions to buy? I'm just going to go up to probably, I'd say, the $2 million mark or so, because, I mean, that's probably an okay for Melbourne budget. So for under 850K, you've really got the inner west and inner north. I mean, inner west, anything around your Footscray Sunshine area is quite good for under 850K if you can get it. If it's either, should I say, an inner city cottage well located, or a place, an original on land in a family area, that's good. Inner north, you're not getting Brunswick for that, but you are getting Heidelberg Heights and Heidelberg West still for that. If you can get something, especially in Heidelberg Heights or the southern part of Heidelberg West, for anything near that, you're doing well. I'd very highly doubt you get anything livable in the southern part of Heidelberg West for that. It would probably be a knockdown rebuild, or one that you just develop or just have to renovate, but still doable for under 850K. That's my picks for under 850K in Melbourne. Under $1 million, inner west, inner north, inner city. Inner west, Yarraville, Seddon, Spotswood, Kingsville, anywhere like that, South Kingsville, anywhere like that. Anything under $1 million for that is exceptional. Especially if it's near a town centre or a family area. Inner north, I mean, if you can still scrape Brunswick West or something like that for it, very good. But if you have to pay a bit more, I mean, Thornbury, Belfield's all still pretty good for that. Inner city, very tight. If you can get a tiny cottage that needs work in, I mean, maybe let's say Collingwood, or let's say Abbotsford, anywhere like that, you're doing very well as well. Inner city, I've put it last here because it's very hard to find that, but inner west is by far your best. Under 1.25, inner west, inner city, Bayside, inner north. Inner west, your top end, your Newport, your Williamstown if you're lucky, Spotswood, all of those locations. Kingsville, very, very good for that. Your top end of the inner west. Inner city, if you can get Cremorne or Richmond, exceptional. Carlton North, Carlton, anything around there, Fitzroy North, especially anywhere like Clifton Hill as well, very good for that. Bayside, I mean, if you can get Moorabbin, Cheltenham, Hyatt, any of those sorts of suburbs are very good for that. Bentley East, I don't think you'll pick up for that, but I think your Cheltenham and especially Hyatt, you might be able to do it still. Inner North, I'd say you especially Brunswick West, Brunswick East, all very good for that. I mean, especially if you can get a 3-better, it'd be a very good buy for something like that. So that's my picks for under 1.25. Under 1.5, inner east, inner south / southeast Bayside. Inner east is probably my top pick. Anything around Box Hill South, Box Hill North, Mont Albert North for under 1.5. If you can get that on an original lot, very good. And I'm still finding them, funny enough. Inner south and southeast, a smaller home on an original lot. You're not going to get a massive one here, but some of the best suburbs here. I mean, I've seen ones in Port Melbourne, even sometimes, should I say, is some parts of Albert Park, occasionally Windsor, Brahan, I've seen them there as well for that kind of price too. Balaclava sometimes as well. St Kilda East, as I said, all of those suburbs very good for under 1.5 million. Bayside, if you can get anything close to the beach for that. So, I mean, especially your Sandringham, your Brighton East, where else is a good example? Your Bentley, especially McKinnon, Ormond, anything like that on an original lot for that kind of price. All very good. I like all of those suburbs, all well priced. Just make sure you buy in the right area in those sorts of suburbs. That's all I'd say. For under for under 2 million, your inner south and southeast and inner east. Now this is your more top end of them. So particularly your Port Melbourne, Albert Park, Middle Park, those sorts of suburbs, St Kilda West. All very good. South Melbourne as well. If you're very lucky, South Yarra or Chirac. I don't think you'll pick up Chirac for that, but you may pick up a tiny cottage or dwelling, something similar to that if you're very lucky in South Yarra or Chirac. But especially, as I said, your Albert Park, Middle Park, Port Melbourne, I mean, St Kilda West or South Melbourne, you'll pick up for under 2 million. All of those are very good. Your inner east, this is more your top end. So it's particularly if you're very lucky, your Camberwell, Canterbury, Deepdene, Kew, Hawthorn, Canterbury, Hawthorn East. I don't think you'll pick up Hawthorn East for that anymore. but especially Mont Albert and Baldwin North. All of those areas very, very good for that kind of price. If you're lucky, Malvern as well, or Malvern East, if you're very lucky. You may get that. I don't know. It'd be very, very tight, but those are kind of your best, should I say, purchase prices for those suburbs. So keep an eye out for those. I mean, they're very, very well located and very, very well priced. So I'm expecting them to do very well, regardless of what people say, regardless of all that crap. I mean, they're going to continue to do well, these suburbs. So, I mean, that's my best regions and best price points of Melbourne to purchase in. And that comes to the end of this episode. So look, if you're someone who's serious about buying in Melbourne and you can see how much detail go into these areas and you're looking for a buyer's agent to purchase either property to live in or an investment, or even you might be a developer, I strongly suggest you reach out via www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. Look, what happens here is it's very simple. We have my hair's gone everywhere. A very simple 30-minute phone call. You book in a time with me that blocks out 30 minutes in both of our email calendars. I'll give you a call via your mobile phone. From there, you tell me what you're looking to do, what your budget is. I'll give you some options and we formulate a strategy from there. Now, this is extremely important because the strategy itself is more important than the purchase. We'll get it done, but the strategy must be correct in the first place, because getting the wrong strategy will stuff up your purchase 100%. And I'm telling you right now, there's so many people that tell me, I've gone out and I've bought in Caroline Springs. Do you think it's a good investment? And I say, no, it's probably one of the worst ones you could buy in all of Melbourne, apart from a city skyrise apartment. And they get upset when I tell them that. But the thing is, they haven't considered the strategy before they've actually bought. So again, anyone serious, you can tell how much I care about this and how much I like it and the level of work I do for people. www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. Look, I thank you all for watching and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks, guys.